Hi everyone, today let's talk in a very detailed discussion of Danmachi Sword Oratoria Volume 15 Epilogue, and how would Loki react when Raul and Freya delivers the news of the expedition of Loki Familia has failed, and they had been wiped out in 60th floor. And how they want the help of Bel and Hestia Familia, but for some reason any of Hestia Familia member did not get involved in that expedition. Resulting Loki Familia has been annihilated based on the report of some low-level adventurer that survived from the said expedition. Before we start, let me show you a few scenes where the rest of them were defeated and could no longer stand, but the one who stand is Aki, one of a side character from Loki Familia, and she is level 5. She bravely stood up to fight, and then the monster fired a magical shot, and the scene ended with a big explosion. Now let's go back to the preparation of their expedition to the 60th floor. In their quest to explore the 60th floor, Loki Familia began reaching out to various familias, asking for their cooperation in the expedition. Thus, multiple talents and promising adventurer got recruited into this expedition. The scene inside the Loki Familia's headquarters, Finn, Riveria, and Gareth are gathered in a room discussing the progress of their expedition to the 60th floor. Finn is looking over a map of the dungeon floor provided by the guild. So we've got a solid roster coming together, but we still need to get a few key people involved. How's the progress on the other familia? Riveria pointing to a list of familias. We've sent out invitations and some have agreed. They has sent a couple of capable fighters, and contributing some skilled alchemist. It's shaping up, but we still need more strength. Gareth said we can't forget the support. We need a healer, and someone with magical defense. The three executives also considered inviting Hestia Familia to join. Gareth wanted Bel, Riveria thought Raul would be a valuable asset, and Finn believed Haruhime would be a great boon for the expedition. Finn answered right, which is why I think we should approach Hestia Familia. You know, just to get Bel, Ryu, and Haruhime on board. They'd be perfect for this. Riveria agreed and said Bel's skills are growing, but Ryu's abilities are crucial for any dungeon dive. In truth, she may be stronger than ice. And I think even I'm a level 7, but I think I can beat her in one-on-one battle. She's an all-round powerhouse. And most of all, Haruhime's magic will definitely come in handy against the dungeon's higher floors. And then Gareth said, but what about Loki? She's not exactly thrilled at the thought of asking Hestia for help. Finn answered, I know, but it doesn't hurt to ask. Besides, it's not a request. It's a strategic invitation. And then Loki enters the room, with her usual mischievous grin on her face. You know, I'm standing right here, no need to talk behind my back. Finn said, you know, I'm just being cautious. We need more firepower for this expedition. And what if we invite Hestia Familia to join? Loki laughs sarcastically. Hestia? You want me to ask her? Do you remember the last time we spoke to that goddess? Finn nods seriously, but this isn't about her, it's about the mission. Bel, Ryu, and Haruhime, all of them, bring something valuable to the table. Loki glares at Finn and said, I don't bow to other familias. We don't need to rely on her help, especially not when we've got more than enough strength already. But if you want to waste your time, be my guest. And in the end, they did not ask for help of Hestia Familia. Finn approached Sir for assistance in persuading at least one top executive from Freya Familia to join them. Sir, I need your help. I want to persuade someone from Freya Familia to join us in this expedition. Sir, raising an eyebrow and shaking her head. You want to involve them? With the rivalry between our familia, it's not going to be easy. And then Finn said they need someone strong, and asked what about Ottar. Sir answered, he's a prideful one. And after everything that's happened, he's not exactly keen on helping us. Well, you do know that Ottar and Balor have some history, right? Ottar and Balor share a relationship similar to that of Bel and the Minotaur. Ottar was once defeated by Balor on the 49th floor. When he attempted to slay it later, he discovered that Loki Familia had already defeated it during one of their expeditions. On another occasion, Ottar tried to solo Balor but was last shot by Alan and others, as they wanted to claim the valuable Excelia for themselves. Finn answered, I know, but I need him to clear that floor. I need him to slay Balor for the expedition. According to Sir Ottar, never been the type to bow down. But if you do manage to convince him, it'll be more than just a favo. It'll be a chance for him to get the Excelia he's been chasing. You might have a chance, Finn. Finn traveling down to the deeper floors, reaching the 49th floor where Ottar is training. Ottar stands tall, his presence intimidating. Ottar, We need your help. I'm issuing a quest. Clear the 49th floor and slay Baylor for us. Ottar's voice is cold and unwavering. You want me to clear it? I've been down here before and I've already faced Baylor. Why should I do this for you? Finn answered. Because you and I both know it's still out there. And it's something we both need to handle. You've never taken it down yourself. Now's your chance. Ottar asked if this will help your expedition. Finn said, It will, and it's a chance for us to move forward without having to fight the floor boss, and for you to settle things once and for all. Despite his initial refusal, Ottar eventually accepted Finn's quest. Fine, I'll do it for the quest, but don't think this changes anything between us. We're not friends, Ottar. But this will get us where we need to go. The scene fades as Ottar prepares for the battle ahead, while Finn watches with a mixture of hope and tension. This development could lead to Ottar reaching level 8 in Danmachi LN21. It also explains why Hogni is the only executive from Freya Familia to join the expedition. On their expedition, they go past to 49th floor, without fighting the floor boss, because Ottar will fight the floor boss on his own. It was a favor for each other since Ottar really wanted to get the Exalia from it to reach and became level 8. The air was thick with anticipation as Ottar, the mighty warrior of the Freya Familia, stepped into the dark, cavernous field of the 49th floor. This was the third time he would face Baylor, the 49th floor boss, an enormous creature with power rivaling that of floor boss from the 60th floor. He could still recall the agony of the first fight, where he had been forced to retreat after inflicting grave wounds upon the floor boss. The second battle had been even more devastating, as Ottar fought alone only to be interrupted, and it was last shot by Alan and the rest of the Freya Familia to obtain the valuable Exalia. Today, however, there would be no interruptions. No allies were to help him if the fight turned against him. This was to be a one-on-one battle, a final test of strength between two warriors, to settle the score once and for all. Ottar and Baylor has similar to Bel and Minotaur relationship. The moment Ottar entered the 49th floor boss room, the battle erupted into chaos. Baylor, with its monstrous size and the terrifying strength of its heavy clawed limbs, immediately lunged at Ottar. Ottar, however, had anticipated the attack. His instincts kicked in, and he sidestepped the blow. Using Hildis Vini, flashing through the air with deadly precision, cut through the monster's tough hide, drawing deep red streaks across its scaled body. But Baylor was relentless, swinging its massive limbs with ferocity, each strike creating shockwaves that rattled the ground beneath them. Ottar gritted his teeth, pushing his muscles to their absolute limits to avoid the crushing blows. This was no mere boss fight. This was a battle of wills, each opponent fighting for their life, for their pride. The fight raged on, the two clashing in a deadly dance of raw power and skill. Ottar's body was beginning to show the strain. His arms were sore from the constant barrage of blows, and his breath came in sharp gasps. Yet he refused to back down. This was his moment. His sword, ever a part of his soul, sang through the air with increasing speed and power as Ottar unleashed the full strength of his beast-like form. With every movement, his muscles surged, his speed doubled, and his attacks hit with the power of a storm. Each strike sent shockwaves through the field, but even as the battle wore on, Baylor refused to fall. The two warriors were locked in a struggle of titanic proportions, neither willing to yield. Almost 1 hour into the fight, Ottar's body was battered, his breath labored, and his movements slowed. But his resolve was unwavering. Baylor, too, had suffered, its body covered in deep gashes and wounds, but it still towered over Ottar, standing defiant. Ottar's eyes burned with determination as he entered his final phase. He called upon his most potent skill, Hildis Vini, and its true power, channeling all of his strength into one final earth-shattering attack. His body surged with raw energy as he entered a state of pure beastification, the power of the beast within him fully awakened. With a ferocious roar, he charged, his sword glowing with the fury of 1,000 storms. The moment he struck, the entire floor seemed to tremble, as if the very earth itself felt the weight of his power. In a blinding explosion of light, Ottar's sword pierced through Baylor's chest, the force of the blow shattering the creature's core. For a moment, there was silence. Then, with a final, deafening crash, the 49th floor boss fell to the ground. Ottar stood over it, panting, his body battered but unbroken. As the last breath of Balor left its massive form, a wave of energy surged through Ottar's body, a sign of his victory. The battle had been won, and with it, Ottar's level had risen. From level 7, he ascended to level 8, the power of the gods now flowing within him. He had finally conquered the 49th floor boss, and in doing so, cemented his place as one of the most powerful warriors in all of Oratoria. Loki Familia goes to 60th floor, and they facing a spirit-type monster. And our Ice Wallenstein basically captured, and she was eaten by a spirit in a frozen form. And Loki Familia doesn't stand a chance against this spirit monster, especially when after Ice was captured and eaten. But Ice is still alive, even though they don't stand a chance. Or we should call it they hardly struggling to fight the spirit, but they just can't leave Ice in that state, and they want to save her. Although the spirit is using her as a medium by releasing an absurd amount of powers, that's why her lifespan is getting sucked by it. And for the question if they totally wipe out according to the report, the answer is no. They are alive and still fighting the spirit, but Loki Familia is in danger of getting wiped out. And the current person that is helping Loki Familia is Hogni, who has been a Giga Chad on this chapter. This is what Reveria means when he want Ryu from Hestia Familia to be in their expedition, since Ryu defeated Hogni, which mean if Ryu, Bell, and Haruhime was with them on their expedition, they have a very higher chance of survival, since Ryu is all-round powerhouse, with the help of Estrella record and boosting of Haruhime. With that in mind, Lafia and Raul went to the surface, leaving sweat-stained red on their faces, unable to soothe their uncontrolled breathing, trampling the sacrifices that lay at their feet. Raul and Lafia ran desperately uphill, climbing the stairs. Not to waste the sacrifices already made, to hold on to the belief that they could still recover something, they all suppressed their tears as they moved toward the light, towards that earthly glow that never penetrates the cruel labyrinth. As soon as they emerged from the dungeon and reached the first floor of Babel, Raul vomited as if a chronic illness had suddenly come to him. While the other members exhausted and fell to the ground, Raul, bearing the full weight of the responsibility of the decision, could not contain the pain and regret and emptied his stomach. The others, with his short breath, didn't blame him for his unpleasant behavior. Not even Lafia, who was shaking on his knees with his hands grounded on the ground, could curse the consequences of that decision. The decision to leave their comrade and plead to the surface. As they arrive, other adventurers seen them. The Loki family. What just happened? They are completely destroyed. Hey, get out the way. Transport the seriously injured immediately. Use the tower facilities. Hurry up. The appearance of the broken and mischievous Loki family coming out of the spiral stairs surprised not only the adventurers who had crossed them in the dungeon, but also the unsuspecting who were on the surface. Thanks to Fels's quick maneuvers, who, upon learning of the failure of the expedition and withdrawal, had mobilized everything. Only the Ganesha Familia and the Dian-checked Familia previously informed and moved away from the crowd to begin the relocation of the injured members. The scene of that defeated army was overwhelmingly heartbreaking. The gaze of the adventurers watching from afar were so hurtful that Lafia could not stand them and looked away. Is that all of them that had survived? Where are the others? Leaning on the ground, Lafia, with trembling hands, somehow he managed to get up, and then she saw her. It was his goddess Loki, who had probably been waiting all this time for his followers to return. Loki's crimson eyes welled upon noticing how few they had survived since leaving more than 10 days ago, and he headed straight towards one particular person. Not towards the severely injured who could not even speak, nor towards Lafia, whose anguish seemed to tear her apart, but towards Raul, who was still vomiting. And he bowed down on one knee to the new commander, the young man who had made the rightest decision and at the same time the heaviest of all, abandoning even Finn and the others to bring his teammates back to the surface. She slowly stretched her hand towards the young man's shoulder to comfort him. But just at that moment, Raul opened his eyes at once, and gathering the few remaining forces, he pulled away the hand of his goddess from a clap. Loki's eyes just opened in surprise. Even Lafia was stunned. The backlash of the blow caused drops of blood to shoot from Raul's wound, staining the Loki's cheek. With tears stained red from his suppressed despair, Raul looked up into the distance, as if he was looking for something. Not yet. Not yet. I still have some things to do. There was a responsibility I had to fulfill, something I had to carry to the end, even if it was in a miserable way. Lafia was sure she heard that silent cry. The young man pushed Loki away with a push, stood up and wobbly forward. Their goal was the stairs leading up, towards the first floor of Babel, where the presence of a son, incapable of becoming a blessing, was felt. Loki kept silent and watched him without saying a word. Lafia gritted her teeth strongly and followed Raul's back, miserable but full of dignity. Members who could still move also moved their trembling limbs and kept moving as if they were corpses. They climbed the stairs one by one, stepping heavily, heading towards the light, from where an incredible commotion came from. Upon reaching the end of the stairs, as if they were crawling, they encountered a scene of absolute chaos. The expedition failed. The Loki Familia, Hephaestus, and DN sects members were there too, weren't they? Where they are. Are these people the only ones who managed to escape and return? The chaos, confusion, and screams were even bigger than on the first floor of the maze. The adventurers who heard the tremor were filled with awe, fear, and rage. Despite the desperate attempts by the Pale Guild staff to calm them down, people kept gathering, and the scene was on the brink of panic, with screams and lamentations filling the place. The injured lying near the stairs waited their turn to use the elevator. Members of the Loki Familia lying on the floor to be taken to the upstairs clinic bid farewell to a strong iron odor. Their teammates were soaked in fresh blood. The group was completely beaten, riddled with injuries, and some had even lost body parts. The group's flag, which before the match waved with so much gallantry, was now shattered and damaged, swinging like a crying clown. And then, the expedition failed. The expedition has failed. Alliance of Families has been annihilated on the 60th floor. In the midst of chaos, Raul cried out. Covered in blood, he clung to his injured arm, and with an expression that seemed like it was going to collapse at any moment, he continued to plead. With eyes injected with blood and tears falling from them, he set aside pride and shame, raising a voice that ripped tears, while facing the consequences of his decision and the result he had to face. He shouted, "Quick, we need backups. Our comrades, commanders, are still in the deepest floors." In the face of that desperate cry, time seemed to have stood still in the Tower of Babel. The pain in Raul's screams and the stagnation of the world in silence consumed Lafia's heart. Ais was not there. Riveria wasn't there either. Tiona and Tione also were not there. Neither Finn, nor Gareth, nor Beat, nor Anakiti, nor the rest was there. There were only Lafia and a few who, after abandoning their companions, with whom they had shared joys and sorrows, fled back. The eyes of the people around them were full of condemnation. The world itself seemed to mark them with the losers label. An overwhelming feeling of powerlessness and defeat invaded Lafia again, as if to drown her, and the accumulated tears of frustration threatened to spill from her eyes. Despair befall upon all of them, but Lafia didn't do that. She didn't accept despair. She set it in her mind. The great heroes were no longer there. Even when the rest of the group collapsed, with their faces down and their gaze lost on the ground, Lafia never bowed his head. Because deep inside her was anger. In the center of her abdomen, where scorching heat emerged so intense that it seemed to melt even the bleeding wounds, there was a spark, a point of ignition that prevented Lafia from becoming a miserable child. That anger flashed into Lafia's field of vision with irritating clarity, as he saw a guy was standing there. It was Bell, and his white hair had stopped with time, and those crimson eyes stared at her, filled with wonder. The only adventurer who continued to receive the teachings of his longing. A new hero getting closer and closer to the great heroes. Lafia said, "Not yet. This isn't over." Lafia knew the name of that anger. It was called hope. Crimson and sapphire eyes met, reflecting a ray of hope in her pupils. Never bending her knees, clenching her fists with strength, the fairy vowed to remain unyielding. Then he declared, "The great flame of white light, and the fairy's roar will end the disaster and launch the counterattack."